All right. Here we go again. Starting off Season 3 with some hype and excitement.
We keep saying it, but it really is crazy how the spring break seems to go by in a flash, and then all of a sudden it's draft day. And then everyone is chomping at the bit for game day 1. Well, it's finally here. It's here after what feels like an eternity. We're back to Season 3, game 1.
So, says you, some of us are busy trying to get multiple units painted up and ready. From the time lances get submitted, we generally have about 2 weeks to get things good to go. Most people only have to paint one, and there's a few of us that are painting 2 or 3 or more, or in my case, 8.
Jesus, how'd you get roped into 8?
Well, I have 5 people using my mechs. At least I'm painting my own stuff for that, but then there's also doing up JP's, doing up Jeff's for winning the painted lance last year. And then there's John's on there as well.
Well, at least you'd be getting paid for at least, one of those.
The almighty dollar.
Yep.
So, just at the last moment, we ended up with another submission for a team. So we are actually up to 32 players, which means we have a full 4 divisions: A, B, C, and D. So, see, I know my alphabet. One of the coolest things about and the cool part about that is we will actually be able to institute our game plan for scheduling. The first 5 weeks is a wide open scheduling. Whatever the computer tells us we're doing, that's who you're playing against. Week 5, we're going to reseed everybody into those 4 divisions based off of their standings. They'll play the last 5 games of the season against opponents somewhere in their caliber range. Then at the end of the regular season, we will then reseed everybody again for the playoffs based off of their overall standings. That should get us people from D moving as far up as A, depending upon how they snuck into D division. Or A side players may slide down to B or C. I don't think any of them will get down to D, but it is possible, I guess, if they were to lose all 5 of the second half of the regular season. So what this does is makes it so that players could potentially, while not doing great in the first 5, make a comeback and end up in the A side for the playoffs, because the A and B side champions get their names on the trophy, on the plaque, and overall in our Hall of Heroes that will be coming up on our Discord and Facebook group at the end of this upcoming season. Guys in C and D division, they're not going to get their names on the trophy, but they will get their names on the plaque and mentioned in the Hall of Heroes.
Most importantly, though, this will give everybody, hopefully, at the very minimum, 5 balanced games and another 5 games of whatever just happened to come up, so that nobody gets stuck playing the top 8 players of the league as 8 of their 10 matches.
Nobody gets the pain drain like they talked about last season.
Oh, Laura had it rough the last 3 games of the season. I think it was Jeff, Max, and JP. Right? Like, just really rough opponents, and that was just all the randomness of the system. But this way, hopefully it'll balance it off a little bit, and it'll take it a little bit easier on the new guys.
So, on that note, let's get to the good stuff. Our Lance breakdowns. Who's bringing what to represent? Starting with our 3 Capellan stables.
Starting off, we have JP bringing his Condos Janissaries. He's fielding a Helios HEL-3D, a Penetrator PTR-4D, the Yuhong Y-H-9G, and the Hunchback HBK-5M that he chose to use his faction tech on. His request was to put in the plasma rifles, so he has a plasma rifle, 4 forward medium lasers, a small pulse and a small laser firing out the rear. He has 14 double heat sinks with a max heat of 28, which dissipates almost all of his 29 heat. That includes the rear firing weapons and his movement, so that keeps him on the cool side. And he's 1 point shy of 100% armor. He started off with 1056 BV. His new BV is 1451, which is an increase of 395 BV in total. I did, however, miss the ECM.
All right, our next Lance. Mr. Jeff is bringing Kel's Keshik this year again. He is running with a Scorpion 1N, the Cataphract 3L, a Warhammer 7M that he's faction teching, and the Fafnir 5WB. That's the one with the 4 plasma rifles. So for that Warhammer, it starts off with 1487 BV, removing the machine guns, lower arm actuators, adding 2 plasma rifles with 4 tons of ammo in total. It keeps the anti-missile system, swaps the SRM-6 for 2 SRM-4s, one of which will be rear facing. It adds Case 2, 16 double heat sinks, ECM, stealth, and 2 medium pulse lasers. New BV is 1878 with a 391 total BV increase.
Next up, we got Andre with his Ren Shields Dragoons. He's bringing in a Vindicator 3L, a Marauder 6L, a Cataphract 4L, and a Victor 9B, which he's faction teched. The Victor 9B has a starting BV of 1378. The new BV ends up being 1751. We achieve this by removing the AC-20 and replacing it with a plasma rifle and 2 tons of ammo. Case 2 in the left torso with the SRM ammo. It gained ECM and stealth armor, 240 of its 247 possible armor, or 15 tons and 97% coverage. 22 total heat sinks, 10 for the stealth and 10 for each of for the plasma rifle, and 2 for a run move. The jump jets have been removed in order to fit this inside the BV limit. Total increase 373 battle value.
And now, moving on to Comstar. Chris M brings the Remnants, which consists of a Wraith TR3, a Rifleman 3N, an Avatar Omnimech OE, and the Thunderhawk 7X, which he is faction teching. The Thunderhawk started off its life with a BV of 2577, adding C3I by dropping a half a ton of armor, dropping 2 medium lasers from the left arm, no case because there's simply no tonnage to upgrade it, and double heat sinks just cause the new BV to be 2476, so he's actually losing 101 BV base from the mech. However, by able to link it into the C3I system, the overall Lance BV would climb, but because they're losing 4 skill points at the beginning of the season, we're not counting that into the calculation for their overall Lance BV.
All right, moving on to Jeff, revisiting Riston's Rogues. We have a Kintaro KTO 21. We have the Shootist 9C, the Perseus P1W, and a Battlemaster 2C that's getting used for faction tech. The Battlemaster starts with a BV of 1563, dropping the SRM-6 in favor of an Einarch with 4 tons of ammo, dropping the command console because A, we don't use it, and B, it's extra weight, therefore, for helping pay for that heavy Einarch. We change the speed from 4.6 down to 3.5. We keep the Beagle active probe. We replace the ERPPC with a Gauss rifle with 2 tons of ammo and 2 Case 2s, one to protect the Gauss rifle, one to protect the Einarch ammo, 1 medium pulse laser rear, 5 medium lasers total forward, C3I, 23 max heat, dissipates 22. New BV is 1931, or a 368 BV increase.
Next up, we have Hamilton with Fox Knights. He's going to be bringing in a Phoenix Hawk 7CS, a Grasshopper 5H, an Exterminator 5E, and a King Crab 001 that he's faction teching. That King Crab has a starting BV of 2,221. The faction tech request drops streaks for C3I. It drops the Ferrofire versus armor, upgrades to double heat sinks, and drops 3 of them, which allows us to add Case 2 to arms and a ton of ammo for the LRM-15, so 2 tons in total. Also adds Artemis 4 to that LRM-15. Max heat is 19, dissipates 20. The armor goes up to 296 of 307, so 96% coverage. And Beagle active probe as well. New battle value 2,286, or a total increase of 65.
Anybody that doesn't remember, for league play, to make a Beagle active probe useful, it does 2 things. It can shut down ECM, thereby making the C3 network work again. And it also drops off 1 minimum range from direct fire weapons that are attached to the mech with it.
Means those Gauss rifles only have a minimum range of 1 now.
Moving on to the Crusader clan goodness, and that's air quotes for any of us clan haters. Well, we've got Aaron with his neon betons. He's running around with a Blackhawk H. A lot of heavy lasers there. The laser elementals. A Thunderbolt C, which is a very, very tough inner sphere upgrade. And finally, the Warhawk C, which is one of the most deadly Warhawks going. And no faction teching, because he just didn't want to.
Moving on to our next clan player, we have Paul bringing Half Cut Stable. This one's interesting because it is 4 mechs, no elementals. Dragonfly L, that's the one that goes 8-12-8 with the 3 Streak LRM-5s. An Ice Ferret C, that's 3 LRM-5s with Artemis 4. A Warhammer-C, so that's the clan upgrade that replaces PPCs with large pulse lasers instead. And a Warhawk H, that's 2 large pulse and 2 heavy larges, and a targeting computer. Pretty straightforward, but it's nice to see somebody bringing 4 mechs.
Next up, we got John with the Vengeful Ones, bringing in a Battle Cobra Prime, which he is going to be faction teching, Laser Elementals, a Lancelot C, and a Direwolf A. That Battle Cobra Prime, he's going to be swapping out the 2 small pulse lasers for 2 heavy small lasers and ECM. The old battle value on it was 1487. New battle value is 1539 for a total of 52 BV increase. That's a lot of large pulse lasers in that list.
Next up, we have Galen, a very competitive player last season, and he's bringing his Lance, the Draconis Combined Lance of the Kenkaze. That's going to have the Wraith TR1, the Marauder 3R, the Maelstrom 6E that he is faction teching, and finally the Atlas CM, which is the Command Master unit, so it has the C3 Master in it. The Maelstrom is swapping out Tag for C3 Slave. It's adding jump jets, adds Endo Steel, drops 1 double heatsink, and 1 small laser. Adds ECM, 2 small lasers, 2 medium lasers, Eagle Active Probe, ER Large, ER PPC. The old BV was 1806, and the new BV is now 2003. A 197 BV increase.
On to our next Draconis Combine player, Carlo, the Alshane Regulators. He's bringing a Crab 20, Lancelot 25-01, a Grand Dragon that he's using faction tech on, and a second Thunderhawk that we're seeing, the 7X this one. The Grand Dragon original BV was 1358. We're requesting a MRM with Apollo to be added onto it, so we drop the speed from 6.9 down to 5.8 to free up some weight. We upgrade the armor to 192 out of 201 possible for 96% coverage. We move both rear mounted lasers forward firing instead. It's got 14 double heat sinks. It's got 27 range heat that it generates. It generates 23 short range heat. We added ECM, and in case we didn't mention it, that's an MRM 30 that it's got now instead of the LRM 10. With ECM, the new BV is 1746, a total increase of 388 over the original.
On to the Federated Sons. Yoink.
Someone else gets to do it. Someone else gets to do it.
So first up, we have Justin with his Tin Man's Tin Cans. He's coming in with the ever-popular Phoenix Hawk 3PL, a Guillotine 8D, a Thunderbolt 7SE, and a Battlemaster 1D that he's faction teching. The Battlemaster is removing the PPC and all machine guns, changes its heat sinks to doubles, adds a Rack 5 with 2 tons of ammo, 4 jump jets, an ECM, a half-ton more armor for 97% coverage, 4 medium lasers, and a sword. The old battle value on this is 1522, and the new is 1918 for a 396 battle value increase.
I knew we weren't going to talk about the mechs, but did you honestly make a jumping Battlemaster
With a sword.
Yes, I did.
I love it.
Okay. Moving on.
I hope
We
Justin
have-
mods that. Sorry.
That is a wow. Okay. Moving on, we have Todd with the new Avalon Institute of Science Crisis Intervention Team. Oh my lord, we're gonna have to come up with something better than that. We will be referring to them as the NISCIT. They're bringing out the Blackjack Omni OC, the Rifleman 6X, the Marauder 5T, and the Sagittaire 8R. He is not doing any faction tech. I think he's just happy with the way the Lance is and is willing to give it a shot to see what it does.
On to the Free Worlds League. This is my old faction from last year.
We have Brandon representing with the Radiant Ravens Raiders. Just because he wants to use a little bit of alliteration. I'm sure that won't bite him in the butt throughout the year at all. He is bringing a Night Sky 4S, Avatar G. I wonder who brought one of those last year. Archer 4M, and a Battlemaster 5M. Again, with no faction tech being utilized by this stable.
Devin is coming in with his first Merrick Militia, which has a Trebuchet 7M, an Orion 2M, a Madcat 5M, or sorry, Madcat Marauder 5M, and an awesome 9M. That Marauder is being faction teched. The Marauder started with a BV of 1471, drops both the medium pulse lasers, drops the LB10X, keeps the 2 large pulse lasers, and adds 3R medium, 3R small, and an ER large laser, plus ECM. It moves 464, 224 of 231 armor, or 97% coverage, and a new BV of 1792 for a total BV increase of 321. I tell you, that mech looks awfully familiar to me.
Almost like it got recycled from last year.
Almost like I ran that last year. You're going to enjoy that one, buddy. It's fun.
Well, that wraps up the Free Worlds League. Now on to the Free Razzlehog Republic.
Where does this guy keep getting in here? I thought you locked the door, Brett.
Yeah, but he still hasn't turned in his keys from last year.
Darn no
What
budget.
keys? I have the lease.
Moving on to the Free Razzlehog Republic, we have Brett's and his first Dracons. We have the Shadowhawk 5S with a Axeman 1N, a Black Knight Black Knight BL7KN T, which he's faction teching, and a Viking 2F. The Black Knight 7 is replacing the medium laser with an X medium pulse. He's adding the laser anti-missile system, ECM, dropping a PPC to a large laser, adding endo, bringing that armor up to 97%. He generates 57 heat and can dissipate 32. So it generates 3 at range, and if it runs and the AMS goes off, generates 29 at short range. So it does pretty good getting rid of most of his heat. Alpha Strike's a bad idea. New BV is 1785, giving it an increase of 342.
And by 3, Lee meant 33 at range.
Yes, it generates 33 heat at range. If it only generated 3, I want that mech.
And he also means that it replaced all 4 medium lasers with 4 medium X-Pulse.
No, just 1. That's all you get. Don't care what you did. Replace medium laser with medium X pulse. I don't know. I didn't rate this thing.
On to our second famous Free Razzlehog Republic player. Will is returning and running the same stable as he did last year. Although this year, it's the Fenrir's Frostfangs. He is rocking a Star Slayer, the 3C model, an Archer 5CS, same as last year, Nodachi 2KC, again another returning mech from last year, and a Banshee 3S, which he faction teched. The Banshee starting BV is 1751, if nobody has that memorized, because there was a bajillion of them over the last couple of seasons, is requesting the large X-Pulse lasers to replace the 2 PPCs. We replaced the 2 small lasers with medium lasers. It runs 288 out of a possible 293 armor for 98% coverage. It adds case 2, changes the heat sinks to doubles. It carries 16 of those, dissipating a total of 34 heat. It generates 33 at range, 22 in close, and its new BV is 2013, or a 262 increase overall.
Well, enough of that. Let's bring on those Lyran Lances. Heather, Battle Babe number 1, is bringing in the Blitzkrieg Jezebels again with a Blitzkrieg BTZ-3F, a Barghest BGS-3T, an Avatar AV-1-0, and a Goliath 4S. Yes, folks, that's 2 quads. The Goliath 4S, with a starting battle value of 1912. The heavy gauze rifle was removed, 2 ER mediums, and LRM-10 with 2 tons of ammo. There was 4 tons for the gauze rifle. Now it has an improved heavy gauze rifle with 5 tons of ammo. It swapped the LRM-10 for an LRM-15 and 2 tons of ammo. Case 2 in the left torso and the right torso, drops the speed to 3.5 and adds jump jets to make that 3.53. New battle value is 2,217, total battle value increase of 198.
All right, our last minute joiner, my buddy Cal, is bringing the Pit Vipers team. It is an Assassin 21, Marauder 5S, a Thunderbolt 5SS with faction tech on it, and a Fafnir 5X with the 2 heavy gauze rifles. The Pit Vipers Thunderbolt starting BV is 1,337. We added a light engine, double heat sinks. We replaced the 3 medium lasers and the flamer with medium pulse lasers. We added anti-missile system, replaced the PPC with an ER PPC, 20 max heat at range, 25 at close. It has 12 double heat sinks, so it dissipates 24 in total. New battle value is 1619 with a 282 BV increase.
I'm just happy to see somebody with an assassin.
I'm really happy to see somebody with the Fafnir. That's showing some serious dedication to the craft.
Yeah, that's the double heavy gauze rifle one too. It's the 2 H cups.
Moving on to Scott, a new player this season who's bringing the Devil's Brigade. He is bringing a Night Sky 4S, Axeman 1N, a Penetrator 6M that he's faction tucking, and a Hauptmann OC. The Penetrator started off with a BV of 1639, requesting a light engine and endo, so we've upgraded to case 2, added ECM, adds 2 medium pulse lasers, armor's up to 100%, dissipates 32 at long range, generates 29. Short range is also 29. So the new BV is 1862, which in total is an increase of 223.
And now for something a little mercenary.
Now Jeff buggers off.
Naturally, right?
One job he doesn't actually have, and he doesn't do it.
Alexander is bringing the Wolf Pack this year, changing the name up from the Doom Buds last year. He is rocking the Vindicator 3L, Marauder 5D, a Thunderbolt 9S that he applied faction tech to, and the Marauder 2 5A. For that Thunderbolt, we are faction teching the SRM into a multiple missile launcher, MML, with Artemis 4. The original BV was 1494. We dropped the machine guns and the flamers, the SRM-6, add endo. It gets an MML-7 with Artemis, 3 tons of ammo, case 2, and the new move is 464. Armor maxes out at 211 out of 211 with 0.31 tons wasted. It's got ECM. The range heat is 24. The close-in heat is 18. New BV is 1719, or an increase of 225.
Next up, we got Battle Babe number 2, Laura, with Thumper's Revenge, returning as well. We have her coming in with a Stealth 2D, a Sad Cat MDG 1AR, a Grasshopper 6K, which she's going to be faction teching, and a Longbow 12C. That Grasshopper 6K has a starting battle value of 1,597. It got a snub-nosed PPC by removing the ER large and the slave computer that's in it. An exact swap with a new battle value of 1,600, or 3-point increase.
Returning player who actually took a break over a season, so he's kind of a new player, kind of a returning player. We have Matt with Cat's Nightingale Cavalry. Matt's bringing in a Lynx 9R, Guillotine 5M, another Sad Cat 1AR, which, come on guys, the Rakshasa, pretty good mech with this variant, and the Longbow 14C, trying to out-missile the Thumper's Revenge.
That 14C is a great example of that mercenary faction tech.
Little heat problem, where the 12C doesn't have that heat problem for a few less missiles.
Matt's famous for having heat problems, though. Moving on, Corey is bringing Angzar's Outlaws, if I pronounce that correctly. Angzar?
Ansgar.
Yeah, what he said. We've got a Griffin 1DS that's picking up faction tech, a Warhammer 7S, another Rakshasa 1AR with the 2 snub-nosed PPCs and 2 MML7s. A Marauder 2 5A rounds out this lance. The Griffin 1DS asked for both faction techs. We replaced the large pulse laser with a snub-nosed PPC. We replaced the LRM-20 with an MML-9 with Artemis 4 and 4 tons of ammo. The AMS that we threw on there is also protected by Case 2. It's got an ECM suite and a single medium laser. Max heat is 24, dissipates 24, 184 out of 185 armor. This thing is looking pretty sweet.
Next up, we got Phil, who was our winner of the grinder on draft day, coming in with Hogan's Heroes. He's bringing in an Uziel 3S, which he's faction teching, a Bandersnatch, a Sad Cat 1AR as well, and a Cerberus MRV3. The Uziel, the request was for 2 snub-nosed PPCs, so we dropped the large pulse laser and the LB2X and added 2 snub-nose, Case 2 and 1 ton of armor. The Case 2 would be for the SRM on that bad boy. Armor goes up to 85%, or 144 of 169. It generates 22 heat and dissipates 22 heat. Original battle value is 1189. New battle value is 1518, or a 329 battle value increase. And that wraps up the mercenary factions. Up next is the periphery powers.
Longtime fam favorite Jay is bringing the Wendigos Night Stalkers. He's piloting out a Wolverine 9M, Thunderbolt 9T, Guillotine 4L that he's faction teching, and the awesome 9Q. The Guillotine 4L started off with a BV of 1400, decided they were going to swap out that large laser for a heavy PPC, adding endo to make up some of that tonnage, and added armor up to 96%. Swapped 2 double heat sinks and Case 2. Beagle Octoprobe, which overall the max heat for this mech is 35, which it dissipates 34 with the jump jets and Alpha Strike, so only goes up a single point of heat. New BV is 1743, so a total increase of 343.
Max is returning with Abishai's Avengers again. This year he's returning with the Cronus 3M, Black Knight BLK 6 this time, a Flashman that he threw a faction tech on, and the Atlas AS7-DR. So that Flashman started off with 1480 BV. It's now getting 2 heavy PPCs, 3 medium lasers, 1 medium pulse, 16 double heat sinks with endo steel, 224 armor out of a total of 231, so 97%. 2 small lasers protect its rear and eat up the last of that BV to keep it under cap. It generates 32 at range and with a run 30 at short, with 1 PPC and the other lasers. It dissipates 32 in total. Therefore, it's pretty heat balanced. Original BV 1480, new BV 1878. BV increase of 398 in total.
And now for Brett's old faction of the St. Ives Compact.
First up, we got Chris bringing in Paxton's Pathfinders. He's going to be rocking a Wraith TR1, a Cataphract CTF-4X, an Orion ON2-M, and a Marauder 2 MAD-4A. No faction tech being used here.
And because of the order we do things, I get to read my own off. Dadmin brings in the Dead Man's Hand. We have a Huron R4L, Jagermech JM6-DG, a Caesar 3R, and the Banshee BNC 3S, with no faction tech change.
Where's the LRMs, Lee? Where's the LRMs? This does not look like a Lee Lance.
I'm skipping gauze rifles off every one of you.
And yet didn't have a single gauze rifle on his assault mech.
That's what engineering's for.
And last but not least, the Warden's faction. You know, because we had to have somebody to offset the Crusaders.
Starting off, strong and rising with the sun, Gary with his Red Suns Irregulars. He is bringing a Pouncer E. I thought this was a pretty good deep pull. Laser Elementals, an Archer-C, which he used faction tech on, and the Widowmaker Direwolf. The Archer-C drops the 2 other M20s and 2 tons of ammo, and swaps it for 2 ATM-9s with 2 tons of ammo for each one. We dropped the 4 ER medium lasers. We added on 2 ER medium pulse lasers and 4 jump jets. We cased both torsos, and it gets 1 ER small pulse laser and an ECM to round it out. Original BV 1811, new BV 1998, good year. 187 BV increase.
Next up, we have Jared coming in with his League of Robots, rocking the Ice Ferret D, a set of Flamer Elementals, Galahad or Glass Spider 2, and a Direwolf A that he's faction teching. That Direwolf A starts off with 2,855 BV, drops 2 tons of AMS ammo, both Streak 6s, and the ammo to add 2 ATM 6s, 2 tons of ammo, and case 2 for the gauze rifle, and ammo in its torso. Max heat dissipates at 42, mass generation is 42, new BV is 2,839, or a 16 battle value overall increase.
Actually, 16-point decrease, but how can you tell with a mech that big?
Oh, it is a decrease. My bad.
Now, last but absolutely not least, we have Darren with the Teddy Bear Parade. Some of these names are awesome. We have a Stormcrow C, first Ryukin of the league. I'm surprised because it's such a solid Omni. They're matched up with a Flamer Elemental, the Warhammer C that he faction teched, and probably my favorite of this era, the Kodiak. The Warhammer C, their request was to bring in the ER medium pulse lasers and to make sure the mech had ECM. So, the armor moved up to 216 out of 217, obviously darn close to 100%. It drops the machine guns to upgrade the ER medium lasers to ER pulse medium lasers. Keeps the 2 ER smalls, the 2 large pulse lasers, adds an ECM and 1 ER small laser out the back. Adds Endo and Pharaoh, and double heat sinks. 22 heat at range, 32 at short, or a 42 alpha strike. It dissipates 40. That is with all of the ammunition protected by case 2. The new BV is 2,126, making it a 398 point increase.
I think I forgot to mention that it has the Streak 6 that it originally had still on the mech.
I just mentioned it had ammo somewhere. I wasn't sure. So once again, our script writer panicking when we have 32 teams to work out.
Little things get missed.
It's all good.
Well, that's our stables for this season, at least starting off. Expect some people to reassign into different or upgraded chassis, or use more engineering type skills to make alterations over the first, probably 2 to 4 games.
So that means we had a total of 7 stables that did not make use of the faction tech. They're going to have 2 majors available to them when they start. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually use them or what they get used for. As Brett mentioned, we're definitely going to see some reassignments, and we're definitely going to see some engineering happening. As for other skills, I think there's a couple lances in there. You're going to start seeing them pick up skills pretty fast, some actual gunnery skills and that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out over the next few games, for sure.
I'm quite impressed with the fact that 7 teams didn't use their faction tax, as well as the fact that like the C3 and the C3I lances are more complete, if not completely stacked up, with being able to have that faction tech perk at the very beginning. I think that's absolutely amazing. Moving on to the area where I shall fail the most this season, which is funny because in the regular season I think I whooped your butt, Brett. Now, moving on to week 1 of our regularly scheduled games.
All right, we have Cal and his Pit Vipers facing off against Matt and Cat's Nightingale Cavalry. So once again, Cal's bringing that quick-moving Assassin 21. It is ancient tech, though. The Marauder 5S with 2 ARPPCs and a Gauss rifle. That faction tech Thunderbolt. And the Fafnir with the 2 improved heavy Gauss rifles. So it's throwing 22 points at range twice. And just to touch on Matt's
Did you just say that both those heavy Gauss rifles are improved?
They are. It is actually the mech on the list that has 2 improved heavy Gauss rifles.
So the one with the standard heavy Gauss rifles was on there, and the one with the improved heavy Gauss rifles. I didn't notice that. And I helped pick the mechs. Wow, I was paying attention.
See? Now, Matt, with his Lynx 9R, that is a fast-moving, heavy-medium mech, good skirmisher. The Guillotine 5M is a good thug. The Sad Cat with the 2 snub nose and the MMLs. Jeez, it's going to struggle over that all season. And the Longbow 14C with a whole whackload more of MMLs. Matt's definitely got the experience, as Cal's played probably 4 games ever, I think, which puts him ahead of some of our joiners from last year. But I am going to bet on this one going to Matt with probably a 2 to 3 victory.
Well, I'm going to definitely say Matt definitely has the advantage of experience. Best advice I can give you, Matt, be very wary of that Longbow 14C's heat curve. It's going to catch up to you real quick if you try to fire all 6 9s. Cal, you employ those heavy Gauss rifles and don't close with his mechs if you can help it. Try to keep him out there where your 22 points from your Fafnir does the most good, which is all the way up to 19 hexes, but don't get in close enough to those MMLs to let him switch over to the SRMs. Other than that, both of you guys should have a great game. I am going to give this game to Matt, and I'm going to make it a 4-2 because he is a more aggressive player and has played a lot more.
This one's a tougher one because I've never seen Matt play. I know Cal from Warhammer. That double improved heavy gauze is nasty. The Assassin, a lot of people underestimate the Assassin. I love that little mech. But then there's Matt with how many MML 9s are on that longbow? Getting close to that, that's pretty much game over with SRM ammo.
Yeah, there's 6.
Yeah,
so it's 54 SRMs if they can make.
That's a lot of damage.
Even if half of them hit, it's 27 2-pointers.
Sorry, Cal, I'm going to go with Matt on this one, but I'm going to go 3-2. And that's just based on experience. I know he's got more experience than you. And you have a few mechs that have no choice but to close. So yeah, Matt for 3-2.
On to match number 2. Heather is revisiting the Blitzkrieg Jezebels. That is the Blitzkrieg, the Barghest quad, the Goliath 4S quad, and the Avatar Prime versus Lee with his Dead Man's Hand. Now, Lee's hampered because he's bringing himself a Jagermech. So that's pretty much handing Heather a first kill. I'm going to give this one to Heather, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game. It is going to be a 2-1 victory for Heather.
Well, I'm bringing a total of 4 Gauss rifles, 2 PPCs, an ER PPC, and a autocannon 10 that I can use precision ammunition or armor-piercing ammunition with. I don't think I'm running a weak lance. If she wants to try to focus on my Jagermech, go ahead. Give it your best shot. It's first game. But I think my Gauss rifles are going to be a little bit more effective than her LB20Xs, her Ultra 20, and her 2 heavy Gauss rifles. She's throwing a lot of firepower out, but I can do it at range, and I've got more experience. I'm going to say I'm going to win 3-1.
Lee's coming out with the one thing that he preached about hating last season. That's an awful lot of Gauss in that lance. And I love the fact that Heather's running 2 quads. I think that's pretty awesome. I think that's going to be a lot of terrain dependent, because if she can get hidden behind some hills with those quads, she can pump out damage without having to worry too much. I mean, well, having 4 locations become hill shots. Sorry, Lee, I'm going to give this one to your wife. Heather 2-1. I'm going to call the same thing as Brett.
On to match number 3. Laura and Thumper's Revenge, representing Mercenaries, versus Chris M. and the Remnants for Comstar. Laura's got that really fast and efficient stealth 2D. She's got the Sad Cat. She's got the Grasshopper, which is just a great zombie. And the Longbow 12C for some fire support. Chris, on the flip side, is rocking the Wraith TR3. So again, really fast and all pulse. At the moment, though, he's got the liability of the Rifleman 3N, the traditional, you point at a rifleman and this is what everybody thinks. And then he's got the Avatar OE and that nasty Thunderhawk. So I think this is probably going to be a pretty even match. I think Thumpers is going to take it out, though, and it's going to be a 2-1 victory.
Well, I know both these players. I helped them with their lances. Laura's lance is hitting the ground ready. Very little needs to be done to change that lance at all. Chris's lance is a work in progress. That Rifleman is not long for this lance. As soon as he can get enough points to get it out, he will, for something that is linked to the network. This is the perfect time for Laura to face Chris. And that's part of the reason why she picked the mech she did, so she was ready to go as soon as things started and she didn't have to worry about building her lance from the ground up. I am definitely going to give this to Laura, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 as well.
I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one. That Rifleman 3N, I agree 100% is a liability, and I'm 100% sure that Chris is well aware of that. That's the free point he's going to give up on that one. But he's also starting off with 3 mechs in that network, and he's got a great spotter in the Wraith that moves fast. So chances are he'll be firing at medium and short within turn 1 and turn 2. 3 Gauss rifles, that's a lot to deal with on your way in to try to get into range. I'm going to give this one to Chris at a 2-1.
Yeah, when you bring a Thunderhawk, something's got to give, right? It's just too BV intensive off the hop. Game number 4, we've got Max and Abishai's Avengers repping the Periphery Powers this year versus Jared and the League of Robots with the Warden clans. Now, Jared has played some BT before, but it's mostly been in campaign-type settings. So for this one, with the Abishai's Avengers, the Cronus, the Black Knight, the Flashman, the Atlas with the heavy PPC on it. I'm willing to bet Max put a bunch of effort into this and tried to get a lance that's going to suit his playstyle. And didn't he come in top 3 or top 2 of regular season last year, I think? Jared, on the flip side, has an Ice Ferret D with 4 medium pulse lasers running at 812, so it doesn't have to worry about any penalty for jumping ever. Flamer Elementals, the Galahad 2, and a Dire Wolf A with, there is lots of pulse lasers and targeting computers in there. So his plan of attack is accuracy by numbers instead of experience of victory. So I think this is going to be probably a 3-2 victory for Max. Might even be a 4-3 victory for Max, because I think Jared's just going to get so many shots in. It'll depend on how it finishes off, of how many turns it goes, and who gets the rough hits.
I'm sorry, sir. You don't get 2 choices. You only get 1.
So, final numbers, Max 4-3.
Absolutely, Brett. I agree. I think the pulses and targeting computers are going to help Jared at least keep competitive against probably one of the best players that has stepped into League in a long time, Max. But Max's experience and tactics showed really strongly last year. I'm going to say Max, it is going to be a 4 victory for Max, but I'm only going to give Jared 2 because I think Max is going to be pretty good at cycling mechs out when they start getting hammered on. He'll put them into not hiding, but he'll put them into a strategic retreat.
Max is a strong player. Agree with that 100%. Jared, I don't know anything about him at all, except for he's using my mechs this year. I think that the elementals may come into effect in this one, especially considering I know that Black Knight is going to be running hot. Flamer Elementals, Black Knight, that could take a mech out for a turn just by doing that. I'm going to call it a tie at 3-3.
Ooh, first tie of the season. And from the new guy.
I just think that the pulse and the targeting computers going to come way into effect in this. He's going to have way better numbers. Max will have the tactics, but ultimately, it's going to come down to numbers, right?
Yeah, it's a ballsy prediction, but hey, it's yours to make.
Jared, don't fail me.
All right, so match number 5, we've got Andre and his Renshield's Dragoons versus Devin and the 1st Merrick Militia. So Andre rocking that Vindicator 3L ERPPC, Marauder 6L, I think it's got stealth, Cataphract 4L, and the Victor.
He's got 3 mechs with stealth, and the Cataphract's rocking a Gauss rifle and an ERPPC. The Marauder 6L, I looked at this one extensively for my lance. Chose not to go with it, but it rocks 2 plasma rifles, stealth armor, max armor, and an ERPPC. It's a beautiful mech.
On the far side of the field is the 1st Merrick Militia with that 2 LRM-15 Trebuchet, the Orion 2M, which is the Gauss rifle and LRMs. It is the Mad 5M with all that faction tech, and an awesome 9M. So, again, a fairly decent long-range punch there, but if he's trying to play long-range into stealth armor, that's a losing battle. I'm going to give this one to Andre based off of the technology stack up, because I don't know either of these players. They're new to me this year. I'm going to guess this is going to be 2-1 Andre.
Yeah, that's a really good prediction as well, Brett. I know I'm kind of agreeing with you with what you're saying. Rarity, it's not going to happen every week. But I think what you've said is true. If Andre is patient and doesn't get bored and just go charging in, he's going to weather what Devin can throw at long range. And he's going to hit with his weapons because they're just going to be more accurate because he doesn't have the stealth armor to fight against. Devin needs to maybe start with some long-range stuff as he's advancing and try to get inside that stealth armor, or if one of your mech happens to have Beagle Active Probe, get it in there and shut down their stealth armor by shutting down their ACM. Other than that, yeah, I think it's going to be probably a 2-1 victory for Andre, mainly because of the fact that they're not experienced to the way League does things, and individual initiative is probably going to be a real slow starter for them.
3 mechs with stealth. He's got 3 plasma rifles and Andres. He's got 2 mechs that have to advance to be inside of 15. First American Militia is running mostly ranged, but that won't help them too much for the first probably 4 turns of that game. Let's say, I'm going to call it for Andre as well, but I'm actually going to say it's going to be 3-2, just because he has to close with 2 mechs.
All right, so into match number 6. Returning player Will with returning faction Free Rezelhog Republic, Fenrir's Frostfangs, Starslayer, Archer 5S that he ran last year with the 4 LRM-15s, Nodachi 2KC with a bunch of pulses that he ran last year, so he's familiar with both of those. Banshee 3S, which is replacing the assault mech that he ran last year with 2 large X-Pulse. He's rocking a lance that he's familiar with. Up against him is Phil with Hogan's Heroes. Phil is one of our players bringing that Uziel, which is so awesome because I've never actually seen one on a tabletop. A Bandersnatch, which I love the mech. It's 2 LB10s and some LRMs and some medium lasers. It's awesome. You don't see them very often. A Sad Cat and a Cerberus. Like, the Cerberus is hard to knock. This is a solid lance. I'm really impressed with it. I think Will rocking right into his basically same lance as last year. He replaced his Wolverine with that Starslayer instead. I'm going to go on Will 3-2 on this game.
I don't know how Phil plays. I've never seen him play, just barely met the guy. But I like his lance. He's using his tech very well. Now, moving on to Will, who I have seen play. It's a really good thing he's coming in with a lance he's familiar and comfortable with, because learning the mechs last season was a little bit hard for him. I think he's going to win. For one thing, the gunnery benefits of the X-Pulses is huge, and I don't know how well Phil really could use the the snub nose and the MMLs. Like, I like how the snub nose works. I'm not sure Phil really understands how well they work, and the MMLs. I think by closing in, Will's going to have a better go of it with the X-Pulses. So I'm going to say Will, but I'm only going to give him a 2-0 win. His games don't go very long. So unless some really good things happen, there's not going to be a lot of kills.
I have played with Phil, and I have played with Will. Phil was on my table during the draft. As I mentioned, he is the one who came out on top for that. I love Will's lance, and the fact he's got X-Pulses in it. I love the Nodachi. It's a great composition. But Phil's lance has a fantastic composition as well. The Cerberus is all around solid. Sad Cat, it's great. It must be. There's 4 of them in this year. That Uziel, that's a beautiful mod on it. I think with it being a new player coming in, it'll be a little bit of a slower game, just because it's getting used to how League runs. But overall firepower, I'm going to give it to Phil. With his, so I'm going to call for Phil, but I think it's going to be a 1-0.
Alrighty, on to game number 7. Aaron with his Neon Beatons bringing the Clanners versus Todd's New Avalon Institute of Science Crisis Intervention Team. NACE CIT.
We'll call it NACIT.
NACIT, yep. So beaten with that Blackhawk H. Lots of firepower. Lots of inaccuracy if you jump and try and fire heavy lasers. Here's a +4 mod. Thanks for coming out. Laser Elementals. Awesome. Thunderbolt C. Lots of awesome there. Just a tough mech with some good firepower. And the Warhawk C. I think the Warhawk's going to get him a kill. I think the rest of his lance is going to potentially try and get in there and slug it. And we'll see what Todd does. It's been, 2 decades since I've seen him on the tabletop. So really, I think I'm going to give this one to Aaron anyway. But I think it's going to be 2-0 just because the Clan Tech is going to carry the day. And I mean, he is a former B-side champion. It's not like he's bad. So we got to give the guy a little bit of props for knowing a little bit of what he's doing, even if he can't read.
I was going to carry forward last year's rivalry with Aaron, but I don't think it's going to be worth it. I don't think he's even going to be in the same division as me starting week 6. That's not saying I'm going to be higher than him or lower. Notice I had not mentioned which one I was going to be in, just not the same as his. But in this situation, once again, I hate to say it, Brett, you're calling the same ones I am. Aaron's Lance, while inaccurate with the Nova H and the Thunderbolt's a good mech, I think the Warhawk is going to be his saving grace. I have not seen Todd play in 20 years, I agree. So I think Aaron is going to win. I think 2-0 is actually a really good estimate. I know Todd isn't a slow player, and I know Aaron plays fast enough, so they should be able to get a lot of turns in. So yeah, I'm going to say 2-0 as well for the Neon Beatons.
As a reminder, Todd's Lance is the Blackjack with 2 LB10s, the Rifleman with 2 LB10s, the Marauder with a Rack 5, and that's Sagittaire.
Yeah, the Sagittaire is the one to watch out for sure. I've played against Beaton. Played one of the hardest games I played last year was against Beaton, and he beat me. Todd, I've never played him. Beaton's Lance, I think he's going to give up 2 points. I think he's going to give up both the Elementals and the Blackhawk, but not before the Blackhawk gets behind something and Beaton shuts it down by alpha striking it. I'm going to call this one for Beaton at a 3-2.
I'm really quite concerned that he's rather good at this, Brett.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not calling anything out of whack of what we've been calling, so it just will come down to seeing how he keeps up his accuracy throughout the whole season.
I'm just worried he's so comfortable. Like, even Jeff was a little bit more nervous than this Jeff.
You wish.
I've been playing war games for a long time.
I don't think any of us can say that we haven't been.
And I might be making completely wrong calls here, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out next week. Well, I guess 2 weeks from now.
All right, on to game number 8. Gary's Red Suns Irregulars being a clanner this year versus Justin's Tin Man's Tin Cans returning to the Federated Suns again. Something that's comfortable and he can do well with. I think this is going to be an enjoyable game. I am going to put it on Gary, though. I think his clan tech with that Pouncer E, which goes 6-9-5 with the jump and 2 ATM 6s, and the Archer with the ATMs, and the Direwolf Widowmaker, if he can get in close, he is just going to eat stuff. On the flip side, you've got that Battle Master that's got a rack and a sword, so he's going to want to be coming in close. It's a close-in slugfest for both of these lances. Gary 4-2.
Gary is a upper mid-card player. He is just as capable of ending up in A as he is in the top of B. Justin, I have no idea. He hardly shows up for his games. No, actually, Justin showed up for almost all. I know, against me. This is my new rivalry. That guy right there. I'm calling you out, Justin. We're going to be playing this season. I'm going to whoop you. I didn't get to really watch a whole lot of Justin's games. However, I do know Justin had a bit of struggles last year with, I think, mostly just dice rolls. But he wasn't really hitting off. Gary, I know, is a solid player. This is his 3rd season with League. Everything is old hat with him. I think he's got a great lance pick. ATMs are monster at close range, which is going to eat up the tin cans. I'm going to say the cans get crushed yet again, and Gary is going to win 3-2.
I want Justin to win. I want Justin to win for no other reason to be regaled with tales of a battle master with a sword lopping somebody's arm off.
Didn't we say that about a Berserker last year with a hatchet? Watching Jimmy chase people around the board and never getting a hit?
This is my new Berserker from last year. This is exactly what this is. So, secretly, I'm going to be cheering for Justin. Unfortunately, Gary's got that Widowmaker. and the ATMs for days. And Gary was top 2 in B-side last year. I'm gonna give it to Gary. Geez, I don't know. I'm gonna say 3-2. Because once again, I think Justin's got what it takes to take out the elementals. That'll give him an easy one, and hopefully he can take out the pouncer. I want to hear stories about how awesome a battle masher with a sword is. I'm really looking forward to that.
Game number 9. Galen with his Kenzaki Draconis Combine versus me, First Dracons. All right, so I'm going to start with me because I can remember what my own lance is. Shadowhawk 5S, that's the one that runs 6/9 with 5 jump jets. It's a large laser, 4 medium lasers, medium pulse, ECM, tag, Beagle active probe, and half a ton of cargo for the beers in the cockpit. An Axeman 1N with the AC-20 and the large pulse. A Black Knight with a bunch of medium X pulses and 3 large lasers for range. And the Viking with the 2 LRM-20s with Artemis and the 2 LRM-15s with Artemis. Revisiting Galen with his Kenkazi is the Wraith TR-1 711-7 jumping pulse boat. Marauder 3R, the traditional old school point at it and this is what you think of Marauder. That Maelstrom that goes 585, so it's really fast. And the C3 Master A Atlas 7CM. I think this is probably an unfortunate matchup for Galen on game 1 because I've got multiple ECMs, so his C3 isn't necessarily going to be awesome. So it is just going to be coming down to a slugfest between his 4 mechs and my 4 mechs. I think this is probably going to end with a 3-2 victory for me. And really, would you guys trust me if I called it any other way?
Oh, it's got to be you calling for yourself. The fix is in if you didn't. My call on this one, because they're 2 very good lances. I think this is an unfortunate setup for Galen game 1 because of your ECMs. His Wraith is fast, pulse laser is accurate. That's going to be good. Though jumping isn't going to help him a whole lot because that's just going to negate the goodness of it. Your lance is extremely solid and accurate with those X pulse lasers. I am going to call it for you. I think it's going to be 3-2. I think Galen's going to push you right to the limit. And yeah, that's what it's going to be. 3-2 for you, Brett, but it's going to be close.
I'd like to make a different call than both you guys on this one, but I'm not going to. Galen only has 2 mechs in his network to start. Brett has the ECM to counter. He did kind of make a mini Falconer with that Maelstrom. 585 Maelstrom could be a threat. But ultimately, I'm going to stick with what you guys are saying here on this one. I'm calling it 3-2 for Brett as well.
You know, now that you pointed out, I see it, but I hadn't pictured that before. The Maelstrom is basically a Falconer now.
Yeah, it's a mini Falconer. It's not quite a Falconer, but it's damn close.
All right, Jeff, you grab Carlos Alshane's Regulars Lance, and I'm going to start talking about Hamilton's Foch Knights, as we have Comstar versus Draconis Combine, 2 C3 networks. Hamilton with the Foch Knights, the Phoenix Hawk 7CS. It's got an Iron Arc and a C3, Grasshopper 5H, the Exterminator 5E, again another Iron Arc and C3, and the King Crab with 2 Gauss rifles and C3I.
Carlo has Alshane's regulars with the Crab CRB 20, the Lancelot 25-01, that Thunderhawk 7X, and then the Faction Tech Grand Dragon with the MRM 30. And I'm assuming he got C3 in that Faction Tech as well? Yeah. Yeah, so that's what, two mechs starting with C3? He's got a 2-mech network?
This is Foch's C3 Compstar network versus Alshane Regular's Draconis Combine that is not running a C3 network. So he's actually going to get full skill points this year. unless for some reason he's looking to switch it back in. But the Thunderhawk doesn't have C3. The Grand Dragon doesn't. The Crab 20 is the original Crab with the 2 large lasers, medium laser and small laser. And I'm not 100% familiar with the Lancelot, but yeah, it is looking like he's just going to be like, I'm running Draconis and MRMs and rocking on some non-network full skill points. Good on Carlo. Let's see how this turns out for him. The two starting off against each other, I'm unfamiliar with both players. I think this is going to be a 1-1 tie.
Just to throw this out there for you, Hamilton is actually one of the guys running the Imaginary Wars Battletech stuff. So he's familiar with the game and plays a fair bit of Alpha Strike as well.
Yeah, but Alpha Strike's different.
It is, but he's also familiar with Classic as well. He's run events for both or shown people how to play both. So I'm pretty sure he's not going to be without skill. Hamilton's coming in with C3 network of 3 mechs to start with. And he's got that dual gauze King Crab. Carlo's going to have the triple gauze Thunderhawk. It's a gauze off, but Hamilton's going to have the better numbers. And I'm going to call it for Hamilton, and I'm going to give him... I'm going to say he's going to have it at a 3-1.
I'm going to come into this one, and I'm going to say that, I think Fosh Knights are going to win that one on the strength of their C3I. The fact that King Crab is linked into that with 2 gauze rifles and an LRM-15, that's tough. That's going to be really hard to ignore, and the closer you get, the better the difference is going to be. So I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-0 win, mainly because he can use his spotters and keep them high defensive modifiers. They don't even have to shoot. The King Crab will do the work.
All right, then. That is taking us into game number 11. Jeff with his Kells Keshik versus Corey with Ansgar's Outlaws. Corey's Lance rocking that modified Griffin 1DS, the Warhammer 7S, a Sad Cat, and a big fatty little Marauder 2 5A Hunter Tunner. And Jeff, tell us about your Lance.
I'm coming in with a Fafnir 5WB, and that's got 4 plasma rifles. I'm coming in with my faction tech Warhammer, which swaps out the ERPPCs for 2 more plasma rifles. Also gains stealth armor. I'm coming in with a Cataphract 3L. It's ERPPC, LB10X, few medium pulse lasers, and then the Scorpion 1N, which is your base model Scorpion 6.9 PPC SRM6.
Alrighty, so we have somebody coming in who's played last season and is fairly familiar with how we go about things. Corey is one of our new players signing up this year. I think you are going to
played before.
Maybe once or twice.
What's that? Me? Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm new. I've never played this game in my life.
I was gonna... Let me read the script here. Oh, that guy, the one I kept forgetting about last season. That's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Sorry, my bad. I'll try to remember you this year.
So I think your plasma rifles are going to play a fairly big part on this. They are one of the technologies that, actually, to be truth be told, they're the only reason I would ever consider playing Capellan. 10 damage, D6 heat, that is just a sweet weapon when the ammo doesn't explode. I am going to give this one to you with a 4-1 victory.
I have a question, Jeff. Can you
Sure.
fire all 4 plasma rifles?
I sure can. And be heat neutral doing it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say 6 plasma rifles. If you hit with 50%, you're probably giving the mech an extra plus 15 heat. Or some close to. That's 50% of your weapons hitting. And 30 points of damage. I don't know how Corey plays. I'm not going to say he's not going to be able to play well. No judgment, just like what we did with the Edmonton Battletech League. I'm just doing what's on paper, and I know how competitive Jeff actually is. Kells Keshik was a sleeper to me, but everybody else in the league knew about it right from the beginning, that you were forced to be reckoned with, and you know the game inside and out. I am going to say it's going to be a 3-1 victory for you, only because I like your lance a little bit more than Corey's, and I can see where you're going with it, where I'm not quite positive where Corey is going with his.
Corey's one of my friends, and he's been playing Battletech with us for a couple years. He's probably got about, I'd say, a dozen times under his belt now playing the game. He's getting a little better with his ideas.
Wait. Did we allow you to bring your own opponent again?
Oh,
You
no.
Hey, this was randomly generated. But he's never played against me on one-on-one yet, because usually when we play, it'll be like in a campaign or something like that, and I'll be running the bad guy mechs, and he's running, with the hero guys, right? So a little bit different experience between competitive Jeff and not competitive Jeff. So Corey's Lance, he does have them MMLs. It's gonna be, I have to play a 15, basically a 9 to 15 hex game, and that's right where he wants me to be in for them MMLs. So for me, I doubled down on plasma, unlike one of our counterparts that doubled down on stealth armor. I'm going to call it for myself just because I joke around, but I've had over 30 years playing this game like a lot of the other guys in the league. So I'm going to call it for myself, and I'm going to say it's going to be 3-1.
Alrighty, on to game number 12 then. Again, Jeff, you want to pull up Kondo's Janissaries, and I will cover Alexander's Wolfpack. Vindicator 3L, LRM5, ERPPC. Marauder 5D, 2 PPCs and a Gauss rifle. Thunderbolt 9S with PPC and a MML7. Marauder 2, 5A, again with those 2 PPCs, and I believe it's an LB10. Alex's idea this year was, whereas last year he was all the missiles, eat all the LRMs, and was pretty successful with that. B-side champion, little bugger that he is. This year he was like, eat 10-point locations, minimum 10-point locations is what I want. So he's going to be shooting a whole bunch, but he's coming up against JP.
JP's rocking that Hunchback 5M that was faction tech to have a plasma rifle and be super heat efficient, and also gains jump jets. Helios 3D, and I can't talk about how much I love this mech. It's packing a Gauss rifle, a couple SRMs, a couple medium lasers, also 4.64. The Penetrator 4D, it's another 4.64 mech with a laser loadout, a couple of YARs, and it's either 4 or 6 mediums.
6 with AMS.
Yeah, 6 with AMS, that's what it is. And the Yuhang YH-9G. That's the lesser variant of the Yuhang, but it's still pretty potent. Also a 4.64 assault mech. It loses a little bit of its punch, but it definitely still puts out what it needs to put out.
So I think in this game, Alex is not going to be prepared for the new technology that is plasma rifles. I think that's going to catch him a little bit off guard, and he's going to end up having some heat issues from time to time. And JP is a multi-time champion. As much as I want to throw my weight behind the kid, I am going to vote on JP for this one with a 3-1 victory at time.
I think the only thing that's winning this for JP is experience. Alex came off a really successful run last year to end up being B-side champion. Learned his C3I tech really well. Got very good with it quickly. I think he's going to be very comfortable with his tech. And JP has a good lance, but I think the techs are pretty equal. I am going to give it to JP. I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-1, but I think the other 3 mechs of JP's lance will be on fumes, and he'll just be glad when time goes that he didn't lose the game.
JP's lance, I like the fact that it moves all together. It's all 4.64. It's coming at you as one solid ball of death. And it's got firepower to boot. Alex's lance, like Brett said, lots of 10-point hits. But ultimately, JP has the experience, and I honestly think that he will take this one from Alex as well. Except for I'm going to call it as a 4-1. for JP.
All right, nearing the end here. Match number 13. Scott with the Devil's Brigade, representing the Lyran Alliance. We have a Night Sky 4S 696 with jumpy pulse lasers. Axeman 1N 464 with AC 20 large pulse and a whole bunch of close in support. Penetrator 464 with 6 medium pulse, 2 large. And the Hopman with the heavy gauze rifle variant. So I'm pretty happy with this lance. I like the way it loads, and like 3 of the 4 jump. We should get that Jeff guy to represent his own lance for Riston's Rogues.
Oh, you mean my lance of having the Battlemaster, the Perseus, Shootist, and the Kintaro? None of which jumps, but all of it's in a network? It doesn't. It's all in a network, and I have 2 C3I launchers and Haywire pods for, 2 Einarch launchers, so Haywire pods for everyone. Enjoy another negative on that heavy Gauss rifle. So, yeah, it's got all the stuff I need.
That being said, Jeff was our overall winner last year for A-side, so he's a big champion coming back. And Scott is one of our newer players that I'm a little unfamiliar with, but despite liking his lance, I like Jeff's as well. I am going to have to give this to Jeff, running in with a little bit of, hey, new guy, this is your welcoming to the league. This is how things go. Oh, sorry, 4-1 victory for Jeff.
Somebody has to play the champion at the beginning. And Scott, I'm not going to say you don't stand a chance. That is not even remotely fair to your ability to play. You have a great lance. I like it. Heavy gauze rifle can ruin anybody's day. And I'm hoping you've got some ECM in your lance, because if you don't, it is most definitely going to be a Jeff day. I'm going to say Jeff. I'm going to say it's going to be a 3-2. And I don't know how close the other 2 mechs are going to be, but I think 3-2 is safe, because I think Scott's got a decently solid lance. And, well, you never know, it's a dice game. I've seen you miss on pretty low numbers.
The Penetrator does have ECM on it. And yeah, I don't know Scott. I've never met him other than just in passing.
Scott played at the same table as I during the Grinder, and Scott's a good player. He's had Jeff to teach him, so.
Scott's one of my boys. Scott's one of my boys. He's a good friend. He's played BattleTech before many years ago, so we've been knocking the rust off of him. Every game he plays, he seems to pick up a little bit better, get a little bit better on tactics. He has a very specific idea in mind for his lance, and I know that. Jeff has a full C3 network. I mean, that's
Beagles.
And Beagles. Beagles got to be with inside 4, though. So
I'm okay with this.
I'm just saying. He'll be able to shut you off for maybe a turn before you get inside 4 is what I'm thinking. And it just depends on what he can do with that turn. And then you have the Einarch, which Haywire pods are going to make people very angry. I don't know how to say that. You get hit with Haywire pods, like, God damn it, I'm a gunnery skill of 5. Yeah, I'm going to call it for Jeff as much as I want to call it for Scott. I do love his lance. It's well designed. I'm going to call it for Jeff, though. But I'm going to go along with Lee. I'm going to say this is going to be a 3-2, and it's going to be a tougher battle.
All right, into match number 4. Jay coming
Match
back
number
this year. 14. 4. It's getting late. Yep, the Wendigo Night Stalkers from the periphery coming in with a Wolverine 9M. Okay, my vote. It's got a Thunderbolt 9T, the Guillotine 4L with Faction Tech on it for the heavy PPC, and the awesome 9Q. Like, there just isn't a bad mech in here. They are all good, they're all solid, and they're all scrappers. So I'm loving this lance.
I understand that. I absolutely love this lance as well. And that modification to the Guillotine is just chef's kiss, man. I don't know what else to say to that. It's beautiful. But Chris is coming in with his Baxton's Pathfinders. He's got that ever popular Wraith TR1, a Cataphract 4X, the Orion 2M, which is my favorite variant of the Orion that packs the Gauss rifle, and the LRM 15 with the Artemis, and a Marauder 2 4A.
So that all being said, this stacks up that it's going to be an enjoyable game because both players are awesome for that. I think there's going to be some laughs, some crying, and some good times. I believe this is going to be a 2-1 J victory at time.
Jay's lance is super solid, really solid, and I can
So
see
hard
where
to kill.
Chris. Yeah, and I can see where Chris is going with his. He's got some Gauss rifles. He's got some solid armor. The Wraith is really accurate. I think he's got a really good, strong lance. Definitely gonna have to move out of his comfort zone with how he played first season and second season. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I am going to go with Jay because his mechs are so hard to kill, but I'm going to go really low on the kill count. I think it's going to be a 2-1, maybe even a 1-0, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 because I don't think they're going to get as many rounds in as they'd like to because there's going to be a lot of maneuvering, and nobody's really pulse heavy. There's not a lot of lowering defensive number mechs in that. So I think it's going to be 2-1 for Jay.
And they're both a little on the slower side too, right? Overall.
Jay's actually pretty fast. He can play a fast game. It just comes down to his opponent.
Oh, right. I forgot. That's the Thunderbolt that goes 6'9".
Yeah, the Jay's 6'9". He's got a 4.64. He's got a 5.85, and then he's got the 3.5 awesome. It's the awesome with standard PPCs. It means he's got to get that thing up the board. It has to be. You can't play a long range game with it. You got to be playing that mid range game with it. The guillotine, I can't. The mod you did, Brett, just fantastic. It's beautiful. I love Jay's lance. It's like I looked at it when he showed it to me, and it's solid. It's hard to kill. There's a lot of armor to go through. He's got 2 zombies in there, and he's packing a couple heavy PPCs. I mean, it's like having Gauss rifles, right? So, I'm going to call it for Jay. 100% calling it for Jay, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to get it as a 3-1. As long as Jay's dice don't betray him. That's always the X factor for Jay. But I think Jay's lance is going to be good.
And I think Timmy didn't make a comeback this year.
Nope.
All new pilots.
Oh yeah, all new pilots.
On to match 15-1-5. Brandon with the Radiant Raven Raiders with the Free Worlds League, rocking a Night Sky 4S 696 with Jumpy Pulse. Avatar G, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's twin Gauss rifles. Archer 4M, which is 2 LRM-20s with Artemis. And the Battlemaster 5M, which is rocking a light Gauss rifle. So this is 3-4-6 movers and the Night Sky to harass, going up against John with the Vengeful Ones and the Warden clans.
And how many pulse lasers are in that lance?
All of
Battle Cobra,
all of
his Dire Wolf, and his Lancelot. It's like 8 pulse lasers.
I think I'm counting
Gauss
7.
rifle.
Yeah, the Gauss rifle to the win, right? Yeah, it's a solid clan lance full of pulse.
Okay, that being said, John is going to hit Brandon all day long, every round. But Brandon is built like a brick house and can take it. I think he's just going to wander up the field and smack down a Battle Cobra, and then he's going to smack down a Lancelot, and then he's going to close in, and it's going to be 4 mechs on the Dire Wolf and the Elementals, and then the Dire Wolf is probably going to drop, but it's going to have dropped 2 of his mechs. So I'm calling this as a 3-2 for Brandon.
It's going to be a real tight fight. Brandon and John have had good games every time they've run into each other. I think early on, this is where the clans are going to start showing some dominance. Their pulse lasers just reach out way too far to be ignored. -2 at 20 hexes. I don't care if you got Gauss rifles. I don't care if you have heavy PPCs or light Gauss rifles. Starting at 6s at long range, he doesn't have to move for the first couple of rounds, and he'll just cut to pieces, whatever mech he decides to do. I think it is going to be 3-2, but I think it's going to be for John. I don't think Brandon is going to be ready for the pulse benefits that he gets, and that's just my opinion. I think mid-season and on, the Inner Sphere is going to catch up on the clans and start really thumping back at them, but I think the first couple of games are going to be at an advantage.
Well, it'll be like the clan invasion.
Yep.
Clans dominate the first little bit, and then the Inner Sphere comes back.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to say this. John's playing inside 20 hexes. John's got the game. But Brandon also has mechs that can stand outside the 20 hex range, and if he wants to take the high numbers, he can trade shots with John where John can't trade them back. So it really comes down to how Brandon plays this one.
Leaves Brandon with a very small area of the map to play in, though.
It does. It means Brandon's going to have to try to play a 21 hex game, and John needs to be inside 20. It's going to be an uphill battle, no matter what. I'm going to say Brandon. I'm going to call this one a 3-2 for John as well. But I think Brandon, if he plays it smart, could reverse that to what Brett's calling as a 3-2. But I'm going to call it for John this time.
Alrighty, that takes us into match number 16. Darren and his clan Ghost Bear Teddy Bear Parade versus Paul and his half-cut Crusader clans. Darren rocking the Flamer Elementals, probably being transported on that Stormcrow C with a large pulse in the LB. The Warhammer with the 2 large pulses. And the Kodiak that is just, it wants to get close to you and it wants to give you a great big bear hug.
We've got Paul, and I'll tell you, my favorite game last season was play with Paul. You never know what that guy's going to do, and he's a lot of fun to play with. Paul has got the only 4 mech lance coming in for clans, with that Dragonfly L with the 3 LRM5 streaks, the Ice Ferret C with the 3 LRM5s with Artemis, the Warhammer C, which is the large pulse Warhammer, and the Warhawk H, which is basically a Warhawk C with heavy large lasers instead of ERPPCs.
Yeah, so they both got a Warhammer C, so that kind of offsets, and then it's just a matter of how the rest of the game plays out. In this one, I think Paul's actually got the experience, and more recently has played in League last season, as well as previous seasons, so he's familiar with the format. I'm going to give this one to Paul. I think they are going to spend almost as much time having just good, fun chats as my AC-20 hits you in the right torso. So I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring game, and I think it's going to be a 2-1 Paul victory.
The way I'm seeing this, I think you're right. This is probably a big advantage for Paul not taking the elementals and going with mechs, because his medium and light heavy are fast. Right? Like he's going to be able to outmaneuver the Wardens. The Teddy Bear Parade, bringing the Kodiak's a ton of fun. I think that's really neat. And it's solid. It's not a weak mech at all. 8 ER medium lasers, an ER large, and an auto cannon 20. And I think it's either 1 or 2 streak 6s. That's a stupidly solid mech.
We tried so hard to get him the Sun Bear in there as well, which is basically the precursor to the Stooping Hawk. But it's another AC-20 medium mech. Just couldn't find the BV to make it work.
Well, I think that both mechs are going to be great. The only weakness Paul has really is himself. And I mean, he does crazy things. He just decides, I'm just going to do this. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it blows up in his face. I think in this situation, it's going to work for him. I think he's going to win because Darren's not going to see what's about to happen. And I think even though the LRM5s being the heavy set weapons on 2 of his mechs, I think the accuracy of the streaks are going to make a difference because 3 medium lasers, basically at that point, out to 21 hexes. And the 2 LRM5s with Artemis or 3 RM5s with Artemis 4. Bit of a waste with Artemis 4, but we might see some upgrades on that one. I think those are going to make really good use of the holes that Warhawk's going to poke into the opponent mechs who need to close. That Kodiak has to close to be really effective. I am going to give it to Paul, and I'm going to say it is going to be a 2-1.
You're right, Lee. That Kodiak does have to close to be effective, and Paul's got the speed advantage. 2 mechs moving 8-12. Well, one's moving 8-12-8, and the other one's moving 8-12. And that's right up Paul's alley. That's 2 mechs that can charge 12, or one that can jump 8.
There's a DFA with somebody's name written on it, right?
Or multiple charges with somebody's name written on it. And that Warhawk is nothing to joke about either. And I love the fact that he's running a 4-mech Lance. And I do agree with you that we're probably going to see something happen to that Ice Ferret. I'd imagine alternate configuration to get into the Ice Ferret with the medium pulse lasers. But that said, I'm going to call it for Paul too, and I'm going to call it for Paul as a 3-1 because, once again, elementals.
All right, so we got to call it now. How many times does Paul DFA with that Dragonfly this year? I'm thinking 3 times.
I'm giving it up to 5.
I'm giving him 7.
Are you calling successful or not successful?
Attempts, just attempts.
Just attempts.
Just attempts? Oh, yeah, absolutely 5. 5 is going to be on the low end.
Yeah, I'm saying 7. That's at least 7 times he's going to do that. So that brings us to the end of this then, eh? End of predictions?
Yeah, that's the end of the first episode. There's a couple of things that we were going to do, but we've decided we're going to move into next episode. We're going to give our overall opinions of each Lance next episode because we don't want this to be a 3-hour long one. So, yeah, we're at the end. This was good. Still 2 hours of recording.
All right, yeah, we normally have an interview. We're going to put that off a little bit just because this is such a monstrous first episode. The first episode is always big, and we went from 18 to 22 to 32 people this year. Wonderful growth, but it adds so much content and extra writing, extra editing, extra everything for you guys. So expect to see new episodes coming every 2 weeks for Uncivil Discourse, and maybe we offset some of the stuff to offset weeks. But we will talk to you soon, and have a wonderful evening.
I want to say goodnight to everybody as well. It's fantastic. I'm out in Saskatchewan right now on vacation, and I am so glad I was able to log on and get this first episode recorded with you guys. Looking forward to working with you, Jeff and Brett and OG, for this upcoming season. Looking forward to having some great fun and making some new friends. Have a good night.
Loving the way things are going. I love seeing all the Lances. You guys all knocked it out of the park. Looking forward to seeing how they perform and what you guys all decide to do with them. It's exciting to be on this side of it, and not just being the guy listening to the podcast. And I'd like to thank you guys all for tuning in, and I hope to see you all, I guess, this Sunday. Cheers.